Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today for our World Malaria Day event, Southeast Asia's Deadly Bite. Can we really eliminate malaria by 2030? On behalf of the Asia Pacific Leaders Malaria Alliance and all our panelists, we are thrilled that you've taken time out of your afternoons to join us here today to learn more about this important issue. Asia Pacific has made incredible progress in its efforts to end malaria. In the region, countries have halved the number of malaria deaths and cases over the last 15 years. Thailand, for example, has reduced cases by a remarkable 68% between 2010 and 2017. And in fact, just today, the Ministry of Public Health of Thailand has announced that 25 additional districts have been declared malaria-free. However, more than 237 million people in the region remain at risk of malaria. And new threats, like the growing anti-malarial drug resistance in the Mekong region and a rising proliferation of substandard and falsified medicines, pose a danger to the efforts to end malaria in Asia Pacific by 2030. Today, our expert panelists will share more about the opportunities and challenges facing Asia Pacific in its efforts to end malaria. Following the panel discussion, we'll open the floor up to questions from the audience. So I'd like to introduce our esteemed panelists today. First, we are joined by Dr. Preecha Prempree, Deputy Director General of Thailand's Ministry of Public Health. Dr. Preecha's background is that he's a medical doctor by training, and he's also pursued education in public health and is a doctor of philosophy in epidemiology. Next, we have Ruby Chang, chair of the board for the Asia Pacific Leaders Malaria Alliance. Ruby is a trustee of the Asian Cultural Council in New York City, the Asia Foundation in San Francisco, and the Clusters Forum in Switzerland. Dr. Arjen Dondorp is the Deputy Director and Head of Malaria Research at the Mahidol-Oxford Tropical Medicine Research Unit here in Bangkok. Since 2014, Arjen has also been chairing the Regional Steering Committee for the Regional Artemisinin Resistance Initiative, also known as RAI, of the Global Fund. And finally, we are joined by His Excellency, General Meach Sophana, President of the Cambodian Counterfeit Committee. General Meach is currently a Secretary of State of Ministry of Interiors and has served as the Director of the Immigration Department and Chief of Staff of the Cambodian National Police. He was also the Under-Secretary of State for International Cooperation and was recently appointed as the leader of the Senior Officials Meeting on Transactional Crime ASEAN. More detailed profiles of all the speakers are in your handouts. So to get started, Ruby, I believe you've been in several meetings this past week here in Bangkok to discuss the opportunity to eliminate malaria in the region. Can you tell us a bit about the status of malaria elimination, and very specifically in the Southeast Asia, what has been happening and what has been working or not?
Thank you, Amita. Thank you for having us here. It's a great honor to be part of the Foreign Correspondents Club anywhere, but this is a special treat for us. So I think we're doing very well. We have been able to decrease malaria cases by 50% in the Asia Pacific, and specifically in the GMS, we've been able to help eliminate malaria by 75%. So I think that the news is mostly good. I think there is also not such good news, but more on the good news side. I also want to mention that we have had a series of meetings in this entire week, and I can report that there is multi-agency interest in eliminating malaria in the region, and I think that is really, really wonderful news. So that people not only, like Dr. Preecha, from the Ministry of Health in Thailand, but General Meach from Cambodia, that we have people who are very senior in the Ministries of Defense, as well as the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Ministries of Finance, who are all coming together to work on this problem. I can also give you all kinds of data about it, but I won't remember it, you won't remember. So I think I'm going to leave that to Dr. Arjen, who knows everything about it, because otherwise I just read off this crib sheet. So I think that what is happening in terms of the regional cooperation is a really fantastic development. And the health minister, Min Thuy of Myanmar, said, and it continues to resonate with me. And he said, you know, if one country fails in the region, the whole region fails. So we must all work together. Malaria is a borderless disease, and we need to really work together, share data, equipment at the border, so that we are all dealing with identical data, so that one doesn't keep, you know, try to hoard data on one side to try not to share with your neighboring countries. This is a regional problem. So I'm happy to report that I think we made great progress, particularly this week, on regional cooperation. Thank you.
Dr. Preecha, Thailand has seen some huge success in its fight against malaria. Can you share with us some key strategies that your country has deployed, and what are the lessons that other countries can learn from your success story?
Okay, thank you, Anita, and thank you for inviting me to this conference. I would like to start from what are we doing, because you know that at that time, before that, you know, like maybe the year 2000, we have more than 100,000 cases of malaria at that time, and we have more than 10,000 die each year at that time. But now we have only 7,000 cases, and we have only a few die from malaria in this year. So we tried our case reduced a lot, maybe more than 90% reduced from at that year, and already for the case fatality is very low for that. What are we doing that? The first is because of you know, that when we try to run the treatment or anything, so the policy coming first. We have the policy commitment, and our national, we have the national state malaria elimination steering committee, which is this is chaired by the deputy prime minister, and then everything, all other ministries have to join with us, like Ministry of Education, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Interior, and every ministries join us, and then we work together by the multi-sectoral work together. And also, I think the important thing is about the we call collaboration among the international, which is we got support a lot from WHO, from USCDC, from Global Fund, and from many institutes. So we can continue our implementation program by support from by budget, by funding, by research, by new technology together. So this is some kind of, we very have to work together, not only in country. And the other thing that I think Thailand, we also have we call universal health coverage, which is this one that all the Thai people and also foreigner who work in Thailand, I mean like immigrant or across the border, they can get treatment, because usually if you not the Thai people, but this is for the universal health coverage, they can get free treatment for malaria. So this all they can seek the care by at that level. So you know that now the situation in Thailand, the case the number of district, we have only total district, we have like 920 district. Now we already free of malaria is about 850 district already. So it's only 100 something. So our target is we can elimination malaria in 2024. That's our target for Thailand. So we think we can do it by that time because of the number of cases, the system that we work together in the district level and in the community level. That's all in place. So we make sure that people can work together to get rid of the malaria together. And also we said that we have the system that we call, we have to use the data, the information to make sure that all the cases of malaria have to be reported, have to be detected, have to be managed, go to the field. So now we already set up our information system that you can see that we have all the malaria cases will show up even in the central, can see it at the district or at the village, they can see it. So that's why we make sure that we can manage, we can control of this one. So our strategy is 1T7 strategy, which is we learn from China about this one. One is when you found the case, you have to notify the case to the whole community. And the second one for 3 days, you have to go to the investigation. Our team, which is we already create our SRRT team, the response team that can go to the field, work in 3 days. So you can investigate where is the source of infection and then try to get rid of the source of infection at that time for 3 days. And then at the 7th day, we gonna have the big team that go to the village and clear everything. Like you have to spray, you have to distribute the bed net for prevent mosquito bites, right? And then you do this screening. We screening all the people in the village that have the in the case, and then we get treatment. So I think this is gonna be the method that we use that can be make us success on this one. And I think the last one maybe we also concerned about what gonna be like along the border, cross the border. That's gonna be a problem for us. So we work very closely with our neighboring country like Cambodia, right? Myanmar. Also, we work together and we set up the we call sharing information. We have the team that learn together, study together how to make sure that if the case occur in Thai side or if the case occur in the other side and move to Thai side, so we can share information, then we can make sure we can get rid of the malaria that's across the border. Okay, this some kind of key information for you. Yeah. So I hope that 2024 we can free from malaria.
2024.
Some great lessons there from Thailand, around the use of data, a very effective surveillance strategy, and the need for greater cross-border collaboration. So I'm hoping that by 2024 or even before, we're all back here, Dr. Preecha, with you to announce a malaria-free Thailand. So moving on to you, Arjen, this whole issue of anti-malarial drug resistance, which is particularly unique to the Greater Mekong sub-region, which includes countries like Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, PDR, and Vietnam. Can you break down for us what is this issue of drug resistance and what is the threat that it poses to our vision of a malaria-free Asia Pacific?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me in the panel today. So anti-malarial drug resistance indeed is very much a problem somehow always starting here in the Greater Mekong sub-region and then spreading from there to the rest of the world. We've seen that in the past with chloroquine resistance, with SP resistance, which were in the past are very effective, good drugs. Chloroquine resistance started here, spreads to Africa in the 70s, causing millions of deaths. So somehow this part of the world is the cradle of antimalarial drug resistance. The latest drug resistance is against the drug we use at the moment, the Artemisinin combination therapies. And just to start, that the great success we have seen here in the region, that malaria has gone down so quickly, is because we have these very effective Artemisinin combination therapies. And when you deploy them at the very peripheral level in all these communities, in the forest, on the borders, tribal populations, if you make sure they are used there, you see malaria go down very rapidly and dramatically. So we completely rely on these Artemisinin combination therapies. So it's very worrying that resistance to those drugs have now emerged and are spreading. We noticed it for the first time around 10 years ago in Western Cambodia. In the meantime, it has spread all over Cambodia, southern Laos, southern Vietnam. Thailand is also affected. It goes further and further into Myanmar, and it has very practical consequences. The national program in Thailand has already have to change twice their first-line treatment for the treatment of malaria because the drug was no longer working. When it's no longer working, you can forget to eliminate malaria because the patient is not completely treated, malaria will come back and it will transmit again. So it's a huge success story here in the region, malaria going down, down, down. What is left is resistant and will become more and more resistant and more difficult to treat. So for that reason, it's very important we go the last mile with a great sense of urgency to really get rid of this terrible disease. 25 years ago, also in Thailand, still many people dying from that. Now people tend to forget about malaria. If we relax now, it will come back. It will be hugely resistant, very difficult to treat. It will definitely go up again, and these resistant parasites again can spread to Africa, where more than 90% of our malaria is. So we have a responsibility to the rest of the world too.
Thank you, Arjen. General Sophana, you serve as the president of the Cambodian Counterfeit Committee. So can you tell us about this problem of substandard and falsified medicines and how they impact the effort to eliminate malaria in the region? And also, what are some of the strategies to respond with this rising problem of falsified drugs?
Thank you, Amita, and good afternoon, all ladies and gentlemen here. I think that you look very enthusiastic and really want to know about, what the result of what APLMA and then all of the people who come to this seminar discussing and work about, and what result that they achieve. Can I tell you one of the story when I was young, back to 1970, when we heard anybody in Cambodia, when we heard anybody infected with malaria, and then that is hopeless. That is like the end of the world. You will have no future. And people will keep lapping, the disease keep coming back and forth. Even the drug during at that time, is coming back and forth. So now, I think that according to the effort and by many countries, they really managed to have the situation nowadays. But I think that look at the situation nowadays and look all of our intention, we really don't want this kind of disease coexist with us. We we work all together to make no place for this unfriendly disease, unfriendly virus. So that is why we have today. And in Cambodia, you know, that as long as I have been appointed as the president of Counterfeit committee that dealing with all the counterfeit product, particularly the medicine and product that harmful to the human body, I try to work hard, and we pay particular attention to the falsified medicine and substandard. And I think that we are glad that nowadays the effort to combat counterfeit medicine substandard seem quite similar to the effort to combat malaria, because we move from traditional policy implementation that fully rely on public health, you know, to now we have collected, you know, a collective effort, not only public health. We have law enforcement on board. We have the, you know, policy maker. We have military. We have population. And then we try to network, you know, all the country, all the agency around the world, because it's, as you aware that malaria have no respect of the sovereignty of any country. They move around freely, no need any, you know, visa, no need any immigration, no need to go cross-border checkpoint, this and that, like us. So if we just go with the traditional way, we cannot, you know, defeat this common enemy. And so also with the effort to combating counterfeit drug and falsify, also we need collective effort by various agencies in the country. And then, you know, we would try to revise our law to make the penalty even stronger, to bring the people, the perpetrator that get involved in this legal activity, get severe punishment, and make the public condemn that, because, you know, it's a case that lack of the public awareness. If you know, if you transport a full load of, you know, illegal or illicit drug, if you find out, they will, you know, sure will throw handcuff and throw the trafficker behind bar right away. But that is not really in the case of falsified or fake medicine. They say, wait a minute, you have to bring drug, you know, you have to bring that medicine, go to the test, go to the lab, and then the lab will send, you know, all over, you know, let's say if the drug that is have a Sanofi or what is other brand, you have to bring to that lab to testify. So I think that is a lot of procedure, and the public is not really strongly condemn that, because we say that usually we have a joke, you know, if you don't pay attention, if you are stupid, you know, you just go and don't check your medicine, you can get, you know, fake and falsified medicine. It's your own mistake also. So I think that we, you know, we work in concerted effort, cracking down on the importing, on the distribution, raising awareness of the public, and try to educate even the law enforcement that get involved in that campaign. So I think that by working together, that the target that we set, we will be able to achieve that. In Cambodia, I think that the government also very supportive, and undoubtedly the policy maker, the political commitment are there. So I think that we are quite lucky in this campaign. It's not like in other field, because it's either, you know, country with any, you know, political ideology, either free market economy or closed country. they are sure don't want malaria to have a place to coexist with them. So I think that this is good, that all of us agree together, and you are all here, also we don't want to see, this kind of disease to be with us, and we want to see our planet is safe for us and for our children, our younger generation, and you are free in mind, when you travel. I know that some developed country, before they travel to Cambodia, they go to ask their, tourists, their travel agency to ask their advice, how many shot or how many doses I need to have before, and what area I should avoid this and that. And we want you to have a free mind and travel to anywhere you can to enjoy, the travel in our region to, to our world. So I think that, Cambodia is very proud. I'm also represent Cambodian government, very proud to join in this, meaningful coalition to combat our common enemy. And with all of this effort, from counterfeit medicine to substandard to best practice of the doctor to all, supporting each other, and, military also get on board. The government is firmly support. We will be able to get rid of, to eliminate this deadly disease. And I think that we will meet again, maybe in this room and other part of the world, and announce our victory over our, battlefield, or to combat this, our common enemy. And I think that, thank you. And this kind of work, this kind of battle can be winning through all of us, through all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you, General Sophana. Very impassioned call to action, and I'm hoping that you will really take this message back with you, and think about ways in which you can contribute to this fight against malaria. So, Ruby, we've heard from Arjen and General Sophana about some of the unique challenges in Asia Pacific with regard to anti-malarial drug resistance, falsified medicines. What are some other Asia-specific challenges that we face here? And also, apart from just challenges, are there any particularly unique Asian opportunities that we have to eliminate malaria? And how is that different from regions like Africa?
Well, I just wanted to follow up on General Meach's impassioned speech about falsified and substandard drugs. He mentioned this, but I want to reinforce it as something that I feel is very important. We need to change the legal framework in order to criminalize these people that are manufacturing the fake substandard and falsified drugs. It's a very important first step since it doesn't seem to exist. This legal framework doesn't exist in Asia. So I think that's really a number one priority for all of us. So thank you for your fight here. So for your other questions, Amita, thank you. 200 million people still remain at risk from malaria in Asia Pacific. And we are always looking for interesting partners from the private sector in particular. So, I think we've done already a great deal in order to engender participation and partnership with different government agencies. But this is a new chapter in APLMA's work. It is a search for champions within the private sector who can also participate in our fight. And as you know, only government nor private sector can really do everything that needs to be done. I mean, government can't possibly have enough money to cover all the social issues that they have here. And so private sector pitches in, and then we need the other layer, the third layer of civil society, because volunteers can do an incredibly amazing amount of work. And they bring sort of an energy that, and number, just in sheer volume, they will bring capacity and energy to a problem like eliminating malaria. But so in terms of the private sector, I have a lot of respect for businesses who go above and beyond their call of duty in terms of looking at social issues within their communities. And APLMA has a very exciting new program called M2030. It stands for malaria, M, and 2030 is our goal, our date by which we want to have malaria eliminated in Asia. So it's a very exciting program, and I want, before I expand into it, I think I see Patrick Silborn, who is our Director of External Relations for APLMA, and he knows so much more about it than I do. So Patrick, would you like to come here and just explain the details about M2030 and all the exciting partners that you've been able to unearth in Asia? Many congratulations.
Thank you, Ruby. Thanks for calling on me, even though you know as much as I do, probably. So M2030 is a partnership. It unites businesses and consumers to end malaria in the Greater Mekong sub-region and in Indonesia. And it's also a brand. So the M2030 brand, it basically transcends borders, is being used in different countries. It transcends industries, it transcends companies. And our business partners, they use the brand for products, for services, for consumer-facing campaigns. And in return, they raise awareness about malaria elimination, and they raise funds for malaria programs in the countries where they operate. We now actually have an ongoing campaign here in Thailand with Shopee. Shopee is an e-commerce platform. So if you're in the business of buying tissue and Cocoa Crunch, go to Shopee, go to the Shopee website and buy some of that, and you'll contribute to malaria or malaria programs. Better said. Better said. Also, other partners in Myanmar, Yoma, for example, has a range of different campaigns happening right now. And I think we've been incredibly fortunate, just pure luck probably, but we have an amazing group of companies that are participating in M2030. From Myanmar, we have the Yoma Group, we have City Mart, basically two of the largest companies in the country. We have Densu Aegis Network, which is one of the largest advertising agencies. We have Tahir Foundation from Indonesia, an incredible contributor as well to public health. We have the DT Families Foundation. Dr. Witt in the back there is a pioneer partner of M2030, and of course Shopee, as I said previously. And we also have a range of new businesses in pipeline. So super exciting. The last thing I will say is that today we also announced a very exciting new partnership with the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum is, of course, the premier platform for public-private collaboration. And together with them, we're creating an M2030 Champions Council. So we're bringing together all the CEOs and the presidents of the M2030 companies. We gather them together with public health professionals and public leaders, like, for example, the executive director of the Global Fund, Peter Sands, as well as Christophe Ben, also a renowned public health person and intellectual. So with that, I think we'll end. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be sitting in the back at the bar. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. So before we open it up to the audience, one last question to you, Arjen. Today is World Malaria Day. It's when the global malaria community comes together to raise greater awareness about the fight to end malaria. What is something that people in this room can do to support your efforts?
Well, I think the main thing is to keep the sense of urgency to really quickly eliminate malaria here from the region, because we are this historical low point regarding the number of cases, but at the same time we have this huge problem of anti-malarial drug resistance. So what we have to take very serious. And since we see so few deaths from malaria nowadays, people tend to forget. So really to keep this awareness going, and I think the general public and of course the media play an important role to keep that awareness going. So that would be my main message.
Thank you, Arjen.
I just wanted to add one comment. If you buy any medicines online, please stop, because apparently, according to Interpol, 95% is fake.
Right.
Wow. Thank you. So,
So I think any questions, we'd like to invite the audience to come up to the microphone back here. You're welcome to queue up to ask questions. We just ask you to say your name and organization before you pose your question to our panelists.
Hi, my name, is it on? Okay. My name is Barry Satz, just resident of Bangkok. When I travel here in a region, I always follow the CDC recommendations for malarial prophylaxis. Should I still follow them?
So that depends where you go, where you travel, because there, in Thailand, for instance, there's so little malaria that generally for Thailand it's no longer recommended to take prophylaxis except for those few border areas. The drug that is recommended, Malarone, which is not a very good drug for treatment, but what is a good prophylactic drug as a traveler, is still working. So that recommendation is still valid, luckily.
Yeah, they usually recommend Malarone, which I take, and it's always up country. They actually, in the CDC site, they actually specify which provinces you need to take it and so on. So it's still a good idea?
It's still correct.
Floyd Seiler. I'm retired in Thailand. I've had malaria 6 times, Falciparum twice, and Vivax 4 times. And I've had different medications for each variety, each species of malaria, and it sounds like you're only using one medication now. Is this true?
Yeah, we try to keep it simple for the presentation. There are 4 different species of malaria in humans. The ones that kills you most is Falciparum malaria. You treat that with these Artemisinin combination therapies, and then you add an extra drug to kill the sexual forms of the parasite that cause the transmission of the disease. That is what we use now. If you got it in the old days, we had different drugs to treat it. The other very important one is Vivax malaria. And Vivax malaria you also can treat with the Artemisinin combination therapies, but that parasite hides in your liver, and that's why you can get it back, relapsing malaria. That needs an addition of a drug, also primaquine, but that you have to take it much longer than just a single dose as in Falciparum.
Yeah.
So those are the different treatments.
Yeah,
Then if you have severe malaria, you need to have it through intravenously, directly in the blood.
I found Vivax worse than Falciparum, actually.
That's what you hear often. It makes you very, very ill.
Yeah.
It kills you less easily than Falciparum.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just on drug treatment. So it has changed over time, and now with the Artemisinin combination therapies, resistance becoming worse and worse, we really need new drugs. So there's a big call for academia and pharma to develop new treatments. And there are promising new treatments coming up, but it takes time. So we have to bridge that time till the new drugs become available. Probably we have to combine 3 drugs instead of 2 for the years to come. That still works. And academia in general, I think, plays an important role. Also, how to go that last mile to eliminate the last malaria. We know how to get malaria down very quickly, how to really eliminate it, whether it's the 137 approach that Dr. Preecha was mentioning, doing mass drug administrations, which also work, but also have a lot of specific things you need to consider. That also, we're not there yet. We really need new interventions too.
Is there a really cure though? Is there a cure? Or is this just...
If you have the disease, we have a good cure still, yes. We have the tools, we have to apply them properly.
Jay, journalist from Xinhua News Agency. Can I ask Dr. Arjen, which drug is the forefront to combat malaria? Is it Artemisinin? Is it resistant at the moment? Can you recap what we spoke about earlier?
Yes, so we treat malaria with Artemisinin combination therapy. So they all contain this Artemisinin component, which comes from a plant discovered in China. 2UU got the Nobel Prize for that. And the artemisinins, we noticed resistance has emerged to it. It's not that it is completely useless, but it's much less potent than before. And then we combine that with a second weaker drugs, and we have 5, 6 of those partner drugs. And the worrying thing is that also resistance to those partner drugs is now emerging and spreading. And that is because they're no longer protected by the very potent artemisinin component of the combination therapy. So artemisinin resistance is very widespread here in the region. In Cambodia, 90-95% of all parasites are artemisinin resistant. The partner drugs, that varies a lot by the country you're in here in the Great Mekong sub-region. But that's getting worse and worse over time too.
Is artemisinin the only forefront drug now to combat malaria, or is there, because when it gets resistant, you need to have other drugs in the pipeline? So.
Yeah, that's a good question. We are very dependent on these artemisinin combination therapies at the moment. So all 5, 6 antimalarials we have are artemisinin combination therapies. There are only 2 or 3 different ones that are less potent or have very many side effects. So that's why we have such a big problem now that resistance emerges against these artemisinin drugs. There are new drugs around the corner, but that will take, most people say 4 or 5 years before they come to the market.
The other thing is, I'll be worried about, because the report says that since 2010, the 60% of localities, the number of people infected with malaria has gone down 60%. Does that mean the funding will be less now?
No.
And we can, put our foot off the pedal now and tell Bill Gates that, okay, thank you very much. Do we need more or less? What?
Oh, we definitely need sustained funding. We cannot take our foot off the pedal. Sri Lanka is the best case study, because in the 60s they had nearly eliminated malaria, but because they took their foot off the pedal and didn't continue an intense post-elimination strategy, they then had a huge resurgence of over 560,000 cases. So they've learned the hard way, and during our conference, a representative from Sri Lanka did a PowerPoint presentation, which was very powerful because it showed the extent to which they really have to continue to work. incredibly hard to maintain elimination. And so elimination is only the starting point. It's like the first goalpost, but you have to continue to stretch that goalpost further out as you go, because unless one continues this vigilance, you can have a terrible resurgence. And we're in the process of trying to do a case study around those costs. It is so much cheaper to prevent something than to let something go. And you think you think you're saving money short term, but in fact, you're going to have to spend millions and millions more further down if you allow the resurgence to happen. So we know pretty much Thailand has done an amazing job of doing a cost analysis, cost-benefit analysis, and they have figured out that 1 baht equals 15 baht in terms of a positive return. So prevention is really the answer to malaria elimination. And so post-elimination is a continuing struggle for many, many countries.
If Artemisia annua was not invented by that Chinese pharmacist, then what is there to...
Then we would be in big trouble, because in the 90s the situation was very dire. Professor Francois Nossen is here, who worked on the Thai-Myanmar border in those days. All drugs were failing, malaria was going up, lots of deaths. So we owe a lot to those Artemisinin drugs.
Chan, Mahidol-Oxford Tropical Medicine Research Unit. I just got a tweet from a friend in Peru who's actually from Brazil. So hello, Andrea, watching us on live stream all the way in Peru. I wanted to ask about the changing epidemiology of malaria in this region. I think when Professor Francois started doing studies 20, 30 years ago, there were more children who had malaria in this region, whereas nowadays we're really looking at a disease which affects young working age men working in border areas. I wanted to ask Your Excellencies and everyone on the panel what strategies you have for reaching out to this population of mobile migrant workers and people in the armed forces who would be at risk of malaria and in some ways are harder to reach in this drive for elimination. Thank you.
You want to start first or? Now, for the case of Cambodia, the public start to really aware about what is going on first with the counterfeit product, and like also the case of malaria. I told some of the joke to some of my colleagues yesterday that in the old day they say that it's 3 full dose of tequila or Johnny Walker, in the morning would prevent you from catching the malaria virus. Or they say that if you feel suspicious that you have the deadly bite from last night, and so you have to combine the local wine and the foreign wine to make sure that all of this alcohol will try to dry away the virus from your body. And some they believe in some of the local herb that really have a bitter taste, but it's almost like a poisonous pill. If you take overdose, you might be killed. But then they say that they take just at the right amount, and then it just kills the virus and keep you alive. But then this is, the public health system in our country start to, do quite a good campaign, throughout the media, throughout some is, I think that through the World Health Organization and through some of the NGO sector who dedicate on the public health, so try to organize a lot of grassroots awareness raising. So population would understand more about that and participate about that. So I think that some of mosquito propel lotion have been applied if they go travel to the area that infected. The effective mosquito net will be going there, and all the necessary mean to keep the mosquito away from you would be there. And I think that in the urban area they will try to look after their kids, their small young children, and not only the public officer themselves that involved. I think that the local authority get involved, the police also start to be aware of that, and people try to be more and more cautious. They want to get healthy, they want to live longer. So I think that they cautious, exercise, pick their food, choose their food properly. So I think that with all of this reason, with all of this work that combine it together, so we'll be able to eliminate that, and at least not to the level of completely suppress or eliminate this, but if we manage to at the level that under control. And last year Cambodia have been announced that is no death case from malaria is in last year. Yeah. And we moved that, the government policy, and before my departure, the government just announced the goal that for the case of Cambodia, we want to achieve to completely eliminate, terminate, the malaria by the year 2025. But as we all talk about that, we talk about, we use the term endemic, proliferation, and then we try to terminate or eliminate. So of course, the case would have to be fully announce the victory, the whole part of the country, and plus we have to to see, and this is our willingness, our hope to see all the country in the region and the whole world also eliminated, because it's like I mentioned earlier, the mosquito, the vehicle, the virus, the bug, they never respect sovereignty. So if you eliminate in the province in Cambodia, they can pass, they can cross border. It's like transnational crime. They cross the border from Thailand to Cambodia and Cambodia to Thailand. So that is why we have to come here today to work together. And this is the case.
Okay, for the epidemiological change or not, I think in this situation, the proportion of the parasite is like for the falciparum, which is very dangerous now, is very low number. Proportion is very low. It's less than around 10%. Mostly now in Thailand we found the vivax, which is around 85%. So when we would like to eliminate, that is very tough one, because falciparum is you have to get a single dose, or treatment is complete treatment only one day, so 3 days, so you get killed. But for the vivax now, is you have to take like 14 days for this one. So it's gonna be something resistant, something people not take is the complete treatment, so they're gonna have the relapse again. So in this one, we very worry if we would like to eliminate in this one. So we starting work with the MMV, malaria, medical malaria venture. I forgot the name, and WHO to get the, because they have the new drugs we call tafinoquine. It's a new drug that you can take only single dose for treatment. So it's this for VIVAC. So it can be we call maybe very dramatic or something very special one. So it can be radical cure for single dose for VIVAC. So in the future we will try to make sure that our study can show it can be used in Thailand or not by our health facility that we have. So this is some kind we have to study together. For the risk population, it changed or not now because of the parasites and the source of infection is very deep into the jungle, in the deep very forest. Not you cannot in Thailand. You don't have any risk if you traveling in the just in the town or in the forest, not the deep forest. So you will not get any infection of that. Only in the deep one. So you have to go there for more than at least 3 days or 5 days. So you may have a chance to get infection from that. So the people that have a risk of this one mostly is the one is the right military army group that work in the along the border, so they will get that, or the other forester, the one who work to protect the forest. That the second one of that, and the other one that we see a lot in the southern parts, because of the southern parts we have the rubber plant, we have the rubber, right? So the one who go to how to take go to get the rubber, the oil, right? Tap. Sorry, that's one they can have some get some risks of infection. So we have we work with Ministry of Science and Technology to produce a new course that can protect how to protect the people from the bite from the mosquito. At that one we try to do it at that one. Anyway, when we go there, when we educate the people there, so the first one is going to be for the coping, so use the coat or anything for that, and the second one is about use the repellent to protect them from the mosquito. And the other one for the net, now we have the bed nest is long lasting bed nest for insecticide, so that's why we can make sure that the mosquito then can get rid by that one. That I think only that risks that we have now. And then the people in the village that work, that is a resident in that village that still have the sort of infection, they probably have the immunity already, so it's a few chance that they can get infection again for that group. That's it for epidemiology change. For drug resistance, because we have the surveillance system that can detect whether the drugs still have the efficacy or not. So we check we do analysis every 3 months, so we can see whether the treatment is failure or not. So we know that whether at some area, if they have the if the treatment is not successful, the efficacy is not good, so we come to have the committee of the we call National Drug Committee of Malaria, so we can decide whether this area we have to change the new drugs or not. This is some of plan that we have is okay.
Thank you. So we have time for one last question.
Hi, my name is Tana. I know that recently they started a trial, a large-scale trial of malaria vaccine in regions of Africa. The efficacy, I think, is quite low, maybe 30%, but I'm wondering if you see that as a viable option for part of malaria prevention here in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, that's a very good question, in fact. So indeed, there's one registered vaccine, malaria vaccine for falciparum malaria, RTSS. It's not a very good vaccine, 30–40% protection only for 2 years. They now pilot that large scale in African countries, was big in the news, I noticed. For Africa, it's probably not a real game changer because of this quite low protective effect. For here in the region, as an add-on to other measures to try to eliminate malaria, we have not trialed this, but we would love to do that, to combine it, for instance, with a mass drug administration. You treat all all people in the village, so the malaria is gone. They are protected for a month because of the drug, and then you add on another year, 2 years protection by the vaccine. That might be just enough to break that cycle from infection to the mosquito to the next person. So yeah, maybe we should offer you a job in our research unit.
Thank you. Some great questions, and thank you, panelists, for your deep insights. Now, before we conclude for the day, I would like to invite some final guests to join us for a surprise announcement in honor of World Malaria Day. So joining us now on stage are Dr. Vit Suntaranan, Director of the DT Families Foundation. And John Fairhurst, Head of Private Sector Engagement at the Global Fund.
I go in the middle. Thank you. Is that working? Yeah, you can hear me. Thank you for the time. I know I don't want to stand in front of our distinguished panelists, so I'll stand over here. My name is John Fairhurst. I work for the Global Fund. Some of you may know the Global Fund. It's an organisation that was formed 15 years ago to help eliminate AIDS, HIV, TB and malaria in the world. We spend something like $4 billion a year globally working on the diseases. One of the most important programs that we finance is a program that many people here have been talking about, the Regional Artemisinin Initiative, which is our largest regional program, really looking to support the governments in this region, the private sector and many others, drive down the disease to elimination for all of the reasons that you heard this afternoon very eloquently. I think what you also heard, though, is the state of this is in a very delicate position. We need to finish the fight against this disease. We need to bring new capacities, new organizations, new partnerships to do this, because these diseases don't go easily. They hide, they evolve, they work in the most difficult places, they cross borders, they do all the things we don't want them to do if we want to get rid of them. So I think one of the most difficult parts of this, as you heard actually from Arjen, is to get people to walk in the opposite direction as the visibility of these diseases is falling, to ask people to invest, to ask people to step up the fight. At this time, it takes leadership. It takes a brave decision to move into something and say, I recognize the importance to do that. And so I'm really pleased to announce a new partnership we have with the Danin Tawe Chervon Foundation, which is demonstrating incredible leadership to be a model of how we can defeat these diseases by stepping up at the time when we need more action if we're going to finish this fight. So I'm really pleased to introduce Dr. Witt, who can speak to our new partnership. Thank you.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Witt Suntaranan. I'm a director of Thanin Tevi Jeravanon Foundation. And I think you all have heard more than enough from the panelists about how important it is to act today to fight against malaria. And it is a very, very important moment that we have to act now. And what we have come to understand is that no one country alone can fight against malaria and become effective. Because take Thailand, for example, we are doing a great job, but that doesn't mean that we are not at risk of the malaria resurgence. Because malaria doesn't have to apply for visa to get into Thailand, right? It can go across the border without any passport or visa. So it means that the transmission of malaria across the border. So it has to be a collective combined effort among the countries in this malaria burden region together. So that's why we come to be partnered with the Global Fund to support the initiative for the cross-border initiatives to fight against malaria and try to eliminate malaria from this region. It means that we are working with Myanmar partners in Thailand, in Cambodia, in Laos, and in Vietnam, in trying to come together, bring a community of private sectors and other organizations and international organizations like Global Fund, APLMA, and many other partners. And specifically, we have the program launched with the Global Fund, with the recipient of the fund in Thailand, SMRU, so-called Malaria Research Unit of Oxford, Mahidol-Oxford University. So we have that program, and then what we are trying to do is that we emphasize on the capacity, the people capacity, because based on the category of how to fight and how to eliminate malaria, they have a broad category of vector control, which is how to protect people from getting bitten by the mosquito and get the parasite infected. And the second component is about surveillance and treatment, how we can have effective monitoring and assessment and treatment of the case. And the third one is about how we're going to come up with the innovations on the new drug. If the Artemisinin fails, then what about the next one to come and fight with malaria? And the fourth one is about the people component. If we don't have a kind of capable people working on the ground, then all three components fails too. So that's why we put more emphasis on the people components. So that's why we asked Professor François if he can extend his capacity, because SMRU has been doing a very great job for a long time in Masot province, in Tak province, in Masot sub-province. And they have been doing that very effectively with a very deep research and science. So we think that it would be very useful for Thailand and our neighbors if we can extend that kind of experience and knowledge to other high malaria burden areas like in Sisaket, where we have the border close to Cambodia, and deep south of Thailand, where we have a situation where we have because of not because of the Malaysia, but Malaysia is good, but because of our internal conflicts that have created a challenge for the malaria management in Thailand. So then we extend the expertise that we have for SMRU, extend to help other partners in the south and in the northeast. So that is basically briefly about what we are going to do together with the Global Fund and our partners in Thailand and our region. Thank you.
Thank you again to all our esteemed speakers and panelists this evening. We named our event, Can We Really Eliminate Malaria by 2030? And I hope that you're taking away a resounding yes to that question. Our panelists and speakers have shown that there are considerable challenges still left in this fight against malaria, but there's also overwhelming commitment as just demonstrated in the region to end it. We appreciate your time today, Thank you once again for joining us on World Malaria Day, and we hope we can count on your continued support in the months and years to come to raise awareness about this issue. Thank you.